Left Reckoning 139. David here, joined by Matt Leck, and special post-game guest tonight. We have our good friend Ben Burgis joining us for part two of our conversation. Ben, thanks for sticking along with us.
Yeah, no, very happy to.
Well, we're going to dive into some of the political conversations about the war in Gaza in just a second. But I'd be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about Texas on this program, particularly because we have a very funny, very internet conversation to get into. Maybe just to set the stage before we get into the headline here. I was just telling Ben, our illustrious attorney general here in Texas, who was just under an impeachment trial for abuse of office and corruption, is now reinstated, and it's back hard at work fighting for everyday Texans. And y'all wouldn't be able to guess what one of his first actions has been. It has been filing criminal charges against the House of Representative members who led his impeachment trial. Which is a pretty great way to prove that you were, in fact,
definitely innocent.
Yeah, because they were criminals retroactively.
Well, I don't know if you heard this, Matt, but you know what the justification, what he's saying is that he was doxxed by the impeachment managers. Because in fairness, at some point, one of the documents came out and was made public that had some of his, address information on it that wasn't redacted, but it was like caught immediately. And also, he's like a public figure. These are people who.
Sorry, that's not against the law to share a congressperson's address. I don't think. Is it? Like, I don't think. Like, they remember star maps. Like, I mean, let's get congressperson maps.
Well, this is the thing that's really funny about this entire fight that we're going to talk about. It's funny to see how even, everyone, we always talk about the left, like the left is too online, we're too online. And very true. I think there's a lot of things, and we'll get into those later about some people being way too online. But the fact is, like, this is a universal experience right now. And now we're seeing like Republican politicians talking, like being online, like, oh my Lord, I've been doxxed, right? Very funny stuff. But to talk about like a pretty insidious, but worrying figure, Nick Fuentes, a white supremacist, bizarre online commentator. He's one of those people that I actually sort of struggle to explain to people, other than he's just like a bigot and a racist, because his program is just some of the clips you see online are some of the most bizarre things. Not just the hate, right? The hate's horrifying, but just a weird little section of the online world that he's.
Has he had sex yet?
No, I don't think so. He's waiting, or I don't even know if he's waiting. I mean, that's the thing, is like the fact that we even know these kind of things about this figure are bizarre. People might know him best for sort of riding around with Kanye West when Kanye West was, in a pretty pathetic
great time for Kanye. Yeah, exactly.
Well, he's expanding that, and he just took a visit to my home state. Texas. So here's a story from the Texas Tribune here. Influential Texas activist Jonathan Strickland hosted white supremacist Nick Fuentes at office near Fort Worth. And you have this picture here. I can zoom in a little bit. Here's
some
Nick
good
Fuentes.
journalism.
Well, they got a tip.
Nice.
The Texas Tribune got a tip that Nick Fuentes and Kyle Rittenhouse were going to be attending an event at an office in Tarrant County in Fort Worth that is the headquarters for Pale Horse Strategies, which is a consulting firm for major right-wing candidates, and is attached to a PAC that is a major donor to Republican politicians. And there were a lot of figures there. So Strickland was there. Matt Rinaldi, who is the chair of the Republican Party of Texas and an ally of Strickland, was also seen entering the building. When reached by phone on Sunday, Rinaldi denied that he had any knowledge that Fuentes was on the premises, and provided screenshots of text messages from Friday morning in which he rescheduled a meeting for 1:45. Rinaldi condemned Fuentes, but interestingly enough, when asked about Strickland, the person who's hosting this meeting, the chair of the Texas Republican Party says that he will disavow Nick Fuentes, but he's not going to make any assumptions based on the reporting of this meeting regarding Strickland.
What does that mean, assumptions?
I don't know,
Draw
you know,
conclusions.
yeah, draw conclusions from the
Yeah,
fact that
exactly.
one of your friends. Well, here's the thing: is that these guys,
Not really. Yeah.
Strickland and Pale Horse, and with some of the associated packs, are major, major, major donors. So you know, interesting enough, a little wrinkle here. You got to remember, just to get to the rest of this story, that as we've been reporting on this program, the Texas GOP is in solid control of the state. But there has been an incredibly apparent civil war happening within the GOP, particularly between the House of Representatives, people like Dade Phelan, who's the Speaker of the House, and the Texas Senate, but most importantly, with our Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick and Ken Paxton. And it has just become very clear that these guys don't like each other at all. Another wrinkle is that they are setting up for a special session to create a school voucher program in the state of Texas. Anyway, so this news comes out, and
Sorry, can I just back up?
yeah.
What did they think that Kyle Rittenhouse?
I've been stuck on the Kyle Rittenhouse thing since.
Sorry, I got about that. So he's in Texas now. He's a major gun advocate here. He works at some fake organization, you know, that they set up to funnel him money.
Right.
Rittenhouse has condemned Nick Fuentes and says that he didn't want to meet with him either.
It's just so amazing, you know, because it's like, look, whatever you think about like the charges against him or the trial, whether he had like a self-defense claim in the moment, all that shit, it's like, I mean, it's just such a diseased thing for this guy to become like a public figure now that he's like a right-wing celebrity. It's like his claim to fame is entirely that he put himself in a situation he didn't need to be in and ended up killing people.
Right. No, he's actually also really apart from that, he's really good at sort of district level analysis.
Also, he's an expert. He's an expert on Texas and Texas politics too, right?
He's like the Bobby Big Wheel of the right wing. Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, it's not surprising. He's like a lot of these right-wing freaks who have been moving here. But the funniest thing is when he first came here, he was telling people he was attending Texas A&M University. And Texas A&M University, I'd be like, no, he's not attending our school. If I remember correctly, and I could be wrong, but I think he like signed up for like an online open to the public course or something, like when people say they went to Harvard and they went for like a weekend seminar.
One of the 8-year-old GOP fascist legislatures that's doing like trans kid bills all day also did that about the University of Minnesota. Like I'm going to law school. It's like, but you live in North Dakota right now. You're running for office in North Dakota. And it's like, well, I'm taking online classes. Like Minnesota doesn't really do that. We've talked to them. I did an online thing. It's like, look, I like Open Oxford and Open Yale too. There's some great content on there. I'm not going.
I wouldn't say that you go to Yale.
Yeah, exactly. I go to Yale.com.
You know, so anyways, this story is very bizarre, right? And I wake up, this is yesterday morning, this is all very new. The story comes up, I'm waking up, reading the news, like, oh, what the fuck's Nick Fuentes doing in Texas? Shortly after that, Dade Phelan, again, the Speaker of the House, who's at war with certain sections of the Republican Party and certain sections of the Republican Party at war with him. He is the person, by the way, if you watched our coverage of the documentary about Texas, he is apparently the sleeper Democratic Party agent. Just got to remind people that the sessions under his tenure have been some of the most conservative and horrifying right-wing anti-worker, anti-trans people, anti-Hispanic folk sessions in my lifetime. So this claim is just bunk from the get-go. But he tweets out after this Nick Fuentes news, Texas Speaker of the House, Dade Phelan, today issued the following statement. At a time when we are witnessing heinous attacks on our Israeli allies by Hamas terrorists, the most egregious assault on Jewish lives since the Holocaust, Jonathan Strickland, the president of Defend Texas Liberty PAC, fraternized for 6 hours with a notorious anti-Semite Nazi sympathizer who denies the existence of the Holocaust. This is not just a casual misstep. It's indicative of the moral political rot that has been festering in a certain segment of our party for too long. Okay. Anti-Semitism, bigotry, and Hitler apologists should find no sanctuary in the Republican Party, period. We cannot and must not tolerate the tacit endorsement of such vile ideologies. Yeah, accordingly, I call upon any elected official, this is where he gets in trouble, I call on any elected official who has accepted political donations from Defend Texas Liberty or any of its affiliated organizations to immediately redirect every single cent of those contributions to a charitable organization of his or her choice. Furthermore, I call upon elected officials and candidates to state unequivocally that they will not accept further contributions, including in-kind contributions from Defend Texas Liberty PAC. Recently, Little Governor Dan Patrick took $3 million from this organization. I expect him to lead the way in redirecting these funds. And then I wanted to see, because he does throw a pot shot at AOC for some reason. I mean, we included, yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
I am tired of witnessing members of my own party join with the likes of Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar in tearing down our Israeli allies. Every single elected official or candidate who has received funding from
who, by the way, did not absolutely do that by any stretch of imagination in this particular instance. Like their statements is my recollection, not exactly revolutionary or pro,
No,
Hamas.
I mean nobody's done, like, I actually looked this up this morning because I was arguing with I don't know if you guys know Matthew Schmitz. He's like one of the Compact people, and he had this article where he basically, the point of the article was that, like, DSA people love Hamas, and I was like arguing with him about it on Twitter, and like there's a point in the article where he like lists off these 6 members of Congress. He was like, these people are all members of DSA, and he said his whole thing about DSA, and so I looked it up for all of them, and I was like, look, out of these 5 DSA members, these 6 DSA members you just listed, 5 of them clearly condemned Hamas in their statements. The 6th, the only one just didn't put out a statement, but the 6th is Greg Caesar. So I don't think there's a question about him supporting. Sorry, Cesar. Yeah, Greg Caesar. I don't think there's a question about him supporting Hamas. So like,
he's out of DSA because his Israeli position was untenable with the organization.
Yeah, because he's like actually like he actually like supports U.S. military aid to Israel. I mean, like I was looking up some of his statements about that too. So it's like I assume that's not the one you're talking about. So this is just totally. This is just totally ludicrous. I mean, like, I know we're going to get into the range of the statements that people made and what was good and bad about them or whatever, but it's like the idea that like any of these people.
Oh yeah.
Silly. No,
and the pot shot's bizarre. But before we get to that, there's one more statement we have to read because it didn't end there, right? We got a response from the Lieutenant Governor, Dan Patrick, called "Phelan Hits Rock Bottom." Which, Ben, you might not be aware, but there was a video of Dave Phelan at the in the Texas House in like one of these marathon sessions where he very clearly appears to be inebriated while he's scaffolding, which they love to point out. Well, let me just read a second from this. Phelan hits rock bottom, using the war in Israel for his own political gain. Texas Lieutenant Governor and conservative Republican candidate for re-election, Dan Patrick, released the following statement. I don't think even Dave Phelan would stoop this low. He has now absolutely hit rock bottom. His latest political stunt is disgusting, despicable, and disingenuous. With nearly 1,000 and over 100 kidnapped, anyone who would use the war in Israel for their own political purposes is revolting, repulsive, and repugnant. Nick Fuentes and his anti-Semitic rhetoric have no place in the U.S. Those who spew such vile, loathsome abominations will have to answer for it. For anyone trying to use these invectives for their own political gain is below contempt. I'm therefore calling on Dave Phelan to resign his position before the House scaffolds him this afternoon. There is no place in Texas political discourse for any elected official to use the atrocities in Israel for their own political gain. That's what Dave Phelan is doing at this point. He's simply got to go. So a lot of really amazing stuff in there. First of all, very clear that asking Dan Patrick to return any money from somebody who is making these kind of political decisions, like we are seeing from Defend Texas Liberty PAC, that's a sore spot, right? Very much so.
Yeah.
And like I think the thing is, like, it is a funny situation. I love seeing Republicans fight against each other. I think it's good for the state of Texas. I think it opens up some doors for us. But the thing I wanted to note was 2 things. Is that it is very cynical to see everybody in this story, by the way, use Gaza. Of course, they don't call it Gaza; they talk about Israel. you know, as like a shield for whatever it is that they're doing, which is just very clearly a naked political fight, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, just it's at a certain point you do start to be reminded of the Family Guy gag where Lois is the debate and every answer is 9/11.
Yeah. But the other irony here is it sort of rhymes a little bit in the inverse. This is like the inverse of the Corbyn stuff, right? Is watching the Republican Party sort of gobble themselves up. Only difference is that Nick Fuentes is like an actual anti-Semite Nazi versus anything that Corbyn was ever accused of. But
well, it's like you wonder if Dade Phelan can sober enough to like just respond and say like, hey, I know that bit where you say that Nick Fuentes has no part in this. Does he have any part in raising money for your ass? Like, because that's what I said.
Because that's
like,
sort of the problem. I agree.
Yeah,
that's like the heart of this, and I don't know why we're talking about Israel and Hamas and stuff right here. Are you accepting money from an organization that is meeting with the white supremacists? That is a problem.
And also, yeah, exactly. Like, it's one thing to like meet with the white supremacists because like I'm not surprised that that's part of their secret mission. But why? Like, what do you think he's going to offer you? Like, what does Nick Fuentes really have to like offer this situation? I just don't know. Like, he's going to do some media stunts. What is he going to give you? Some numbers in Kanye's phone? Like, I don't know what material he can give you.
How to reach the youth, I think, is what.
Oh yeah, that's who's watching Nick Fuentes. It's not like the weirdest 55-year-old guys.
Actually, you're so right, man. You're so funny. Oh man. Well, anyway, that's it's we're having to talk about some serious stuff, so I had to throw in a little bit of a present from all the geniuses running my home.